all right, that's fine. Okay, so then without further ado, let's start the class, right? So no more questions. Maybe the first day it's not good to ask questions, right? So let's without further ado, let's start the session. So today is actually a webinar, and for the ones who prefer Sinhala, I will explain it from Sinhala as well, so that both of, I mean, everyone can understand, right? So adapi mainly karanne yanne introductory session ekak robotics kenne monawada kiyala, right? So it's a very basic slide set webinar today, so we are not going into too much of technical details today, right? අපි technical ගොඩාක් details වලට යන්නේ නැතුව අපි බලමු කොහොමද මේ මොකද්ද මේ robotics කියලා කියන්නේ සහ දැනට ලෝකේ පාවිච්චි වෙන robotics robots ලා මොනවද කියලා, right? So it's a basic introduction, right? So let me share my screen then. Just before that, just let me do something. Right, okay. Right. Right, so can you all see my screen clearly?
Yes, sir.
Right, brilliant. Right, so let's start with the session, right? So the course name, first of all, the course name is Robotics and IoT, right? So Robotics and IoT and Arduino. I think you all, or most of you, may be familiar with these two words, robotics and Arduino. If you are not, again, Arduino saha robotics ki වචන දෙකේ තේරුම දන්නේ නැත්නම් that is also completely fine. again කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අපි මේ course එකේ මුල ඉඳලම robotics ගැන සහ Arduino කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියන දෙක කියලා දෙනවා, right? So, and there's this one word which may be some new word, which is IoT. What is this IoT? It is actually Internet of Things. IoT කියලා කියන්නේ Internet of Things කියන එකට, right? ඒකෙත් ලොකු දෙයක් නැහැ. බොහොම simple concept එකක්. It's a very simple concept. So we will teach very fundamentals of IoT in this course as well. අපි IoT එකේ fundamental of IoT කියන part එක අපි මේ course එකේදී ඔයගලන්ට කියලා දෙනවා, right? Okay, so let's start with the session. Right, so my name is Kashapa Karunaratna, right? Okay, so again, let's start with the session. Okay, so robotics and IoT, and we are doing this robotics and IoT using Arduino, right? Okay, so let's see why robots, right? So before me telling you what are robots, right? Because robots la kiyanne mona kawuda ehema natha robot kenek kiyanne kawuda ehema natha robot kenek kiyanne mokadda කියන එක කියන්න කලින් මම කැමති ඇයි අපි robots ලා ගැන ඉගෙන ගන්න ඕනේ සහ ඇයි අපි robots ලා ගැන දැනගන්න ඕනේ. So robots ලා අපි හැදුවේ ඇයි කියන basic concept එක ගැන idea එකක් දෙන්න, right? So before explaining what are robots or like what are the details and technicalities of the robots, I would like to explain you why we use robots, right? It is very simple theorems, right? So why do we need robots, right? Or else why we need robotics, right? So we can use robots to make our day-to-day tasks easier, right? අපි එදිනදා ජීවිතයේදී කරන දේවල් ලේසි කරගන්න අපිට robots ලා පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? So we can use robots to make our day-to-day tasks easier, right? And then to do repetitive jobs. මොනවද මේ repetitive jobs කියන්නේ? ඒ කියන්නේ repetitive job එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ නිතරම එකම දේ කරන job එකක්. දැන් අපි දන්නවා අපි ඉස්කෝලේ පාඩම් කරද්දී අපි ඒ කරන්නේ repetitive job එකක් නෙමෙයි. අපි උදේ ඉඳලා ඒ කියන්නේ අපි පාඩම් කරනවා කියන්නේ අපිට එක එක දේවල් එක එක පාඩම් අපිට දවසට හම්බ වෙනවා, right? So when we study different subjects and different days. So therefore it is not a repetitive job. But imagine there is a job that what you have to do is to grab a box from one place and to keep the box from another place. කියන්නේ අපි එක තැනක ඉඳලා තව තැනකට භාණ්ඩයක් අපි මාරු කරන එක, that is a repetitive job. If you do that all the time every day, that becomes a repetitive job. අපිට ගෙදර තියෙන example එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් අතු ගාන එක, right? So we can take sweeping the house as an example for a repetitive job, right? So every day or weekly or sometimes most of the times we sweep our floors like day by day, right? So හැමදාම පොළව අතු ගාන එකත් repetitive job එකක්, right? So these are repetitive jobs and robots are very good at doing these repetitive jobs, right? So මේ හැමදාම එකම දේ කරන්න robots ට ලොකු talent ලොකු ability එකක් තියෙනවා, right? So therefore we need robots to do repetitive jobs and then to automate complex systems, right? So automate කරනවා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? What is this automation, or what do you mean by automating? Automating is letting the robot to do its job, right? So rather than we are doing our job, rather than we are doing the job, we let robots to do the job, right? So I'll take the same example, sweeping the floor. So you can tell a robot to sweep the floor, right? So automatically robot will find where the dusts are. Automatically robots will find where you need to sweep and robot will sweep the floor, right? So to automate complex systems. So sweeping the floor might not be a very complex, but later on we'll explain, we'll get to know what are the complex systems, right? So therefore to automate these complex systems we can use robots and to do things people are not capable of, right? To do things people are not capable of. ඒ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සුන්ට capable නැති දේවල් කරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ගත්තොත් සමහර දේවල්. So the very famous example is the robot that we put to planet Mars, right? Or robot that we send to moon, right? So අපි මේ moon එහෙම නැත්නම් හඳට එහෙම නැත්නම් අඟහරු වලට අපි robots ලැවලා අන්නේ robots ලගෙන් තමයි අපි information ගන්නෙ, right? So we can't send people to Mars. So if you are sending people to Mars, it's a big job, right? So therefore what we do is we first send a robot to Mars and then we collect data from that. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි මුලින්ම robot කෙනෙක් යවලා Mars වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් අඟහරු ග්‍රහ ලෝකෙට අපි ගන්නවා එයාගෙන් information, right? So ඒ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සුන්ට කරන්න බැරි දේවල් එහෙම නැත්නම් මිනිස්සුන්ට යන්න බැරි තැන් මිනිස්සුන්ට reach කරන්න බැරි දේවල් අපිට පුළුවන් වෙනවා මේ robots ලා use කරගෙන කරන්න, right? So what robots are good at, right? robots මොනවටද robots වලට ලේසියෙන්ම කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල්. So we'll see. Like I said, robots are good at doing repetitive tasks. Again, api robots are repetitive tasks karan use karna vitarak නෙමෙයි, robots are naturally good at doing repetitive tasks, right? So the other thing is they don't get tired like humans do, right? So let's say like it's a robot arm which is making a machine. People get tired, right? If you are moving our hands, if you are moving our legs. So like as an example, so let's say there are factories, right? Big factories where there are robots which are following lines. Api a following lines, like a line detecting and line following robots are there in big factories, right? So that is why even we are trying to make these robots, right? Because it's very important. So these line following robots may be going like few kilometers per day. දවසකට මොනවාරි ලොකු බඩු ප්‍රමාණයක් කරන් මේ ෆැක්ටරි එක ඇතුලේ කිලෝමීටර්ස් 5ක් යනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. For a single day, this line following robot might be going like 5 or 6 kilometers, carrying huge loads, right? But they never get tired. The only thing is they need to recharge. So they automatically go to a dock and then recharge themselves as well, right? So robots don't necessarily get tired like we do, like humans do, right? So, and the other thing is robots don't ask for salaries, right? They don't need food. They don't need to eat. Only thing that they need is to charge their batteries or to get power, right? And then they can go to places or areas that humans cannot go, right? So like I said, there are places in planet Earth, even there are like toxic places, right? ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට මිනිස්සෙක්ට ජීවත් වෙන්න බැරි තැන් තියෙනවා even in this planet, right? So as an example, අපි ගත්තොත් oil තිබ්බ tank එකක්, එහෙම නැත්නම් chemicals දාලා තිබ්බ tank එකක්. As an example, if we take like a tank which they have put oil or like chemicals, so only robots can go inside these tanks. We can't, because it is not a habitable place for us, right? So therefore robots are necessarily good at these things. Not just we are using them to do these things, they are actually good at these things as well, right? So this is an example for a industrial robot arm, right? So I know like most of you might have seen these line following robots, right? Or like robo cars and all, but these are also robots, right? So industrial අපිට robo arm එකක් වුණත් අපිට හදන්න පුළුවන්. So this is an example for an industrial robot arm, right? So then we'll go to this big topic, what is robotics, right? So I gave you a basic idea why we need robots, right? So then now I will give you an introduction to what is robotics, right? So by definition, you can see robotics is the engineering and operation of machines that can autonomously or semi-autonomously perform physical tasks on behalf of a human. And this was said by Techopedia, right? So this is a website. So by their definition, this is what robotics is, right? අපි මේ definition එක ගත්තොත් මේක කියන්නේ ඇත්තටම robotics කියන්නේ අපි engineer කරන දෙයක් machine එකක් පාවිච්චි කරලා මිනිස්සු වෙනුවට වැඩක් කරගන්න පුළුවන් දෙයක් තමයි robotics කියන්නේ, right? So I mean these machines or else these robots are doing physical tasks, performing physical tasks on behalf of a human, right? So moving things from one place to another, right? Or just welding, it can be welding, it can be flying, it can be diving underwater. All of these things, these are physical tasks, right? So robots are machines which do physical tasks on behalf of humans. ඒ කියන්නේ මිනිස්සු වෙනුවෙන් ඒගොල්ලෝ වැඩ කරනවා. They work for humans and behalf of humans, right? So simply robots can replace humans in some areas, right? So industries that use robotics, right? So one industry is manufacturing industry. So like I said, we are making cars from robots, right? Using robots. So that is a manufacturing industry that we are using robots. And then we are using robots in agriculture, right? And then we are using robots in space, right? So like I said, I explained, we have sent rovers to Mars and Moon, right? So we are using robots in the space as well. And as an example, the entire space station is actually acting as a giant robot, right? And then we use automotive. What is this automotive? Have you heard of a car called Tesla, right? So this car, it's a car that we can drive, but at the same time, it can autonomously drive, right? It can automatically drive as well. So it is also some sort of a robot only, right? So Tesla car එකක් ගත්තොත් ඒකත් ඇත්තටම robot කෙනෙක් වගේ. Then like you said that you are interested on making line following robots. So even the Tesla car has the capability to follow the line in the road, but it follows in a different way. It uses very different advanced technologies, but at some point that Tesla car is also, that autonomous car is also following a line. පාරේ lines detect කරගන්න පුළුවන් capability එකක් ඒ car එකටත් තියෙනවා. So therefore even cars are some sort of robots nowadays. So robots we are using in logistics. So I will not going to explain what is logistics for you, but logistics means like to carry things from different places, like in delivery services, right? So nowadays we are using delivery drones, right, which flies to deliver our goods, right? So therefore in logistics also we are using robots. And then in medical sector, even doctors use robots now. And then we are using robots for natural disasters, emergency relief services, and all. And we use consumer robots as well. So like I explained, a robot which can sweep the floor, we are using, and that is a consumable robot, right? So this is an example of an industrial robot, like I said. So I showed you one picture of a single robo arm, and now this is a multiple robo arms assembling a car. You can see. Right. And then I have a small video for you guys. This is the D. So this is actually a drone, and this is a robot as well, right? So this is an autonomous robot. I'm giving you examples. I'm showing you guys few examples of how we use robots, right? So that this is the future. And by learning this course, you can actually learn further. So in order for you to build something like this, you need to learn a lot, but this is the fundamental, right? So this robotic drone, as you can see, can automatically spray pesticides to a paddy field, right? So this is what they are doing right now. So you can see there are two robots working together to spray sometimes seeds as well as other fertilizers and all, right? So this drone is actually also a robot, right? So it has different sensors to measure different items, and I will explain, and we will learn what are these sensors and what are these actuators, what are the moving parts, and etc. Right? So then this is an example that this is a robot as well. This is what we send to Mars, right? අපි මාස් වලට යවුවේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ robot කෙනෙක්ව, right? So this robot is also has its wheels, and this robot has cameras to detect the surface, right? And this robot is also one of the most capable robots that humans have ever built, right? So this is working in Mars. So in Mars, in Mars there is no oxygen, right? So therefore humans can't go there yet. Of course we can go with a huge space suit, but naturally humans can't go to Mars because it doesn't have oxygen. So we can't just even stay there for 1 or 2 minutes, right? But these robots, they don't breathe, and they have their own ways of getting energy, charging themselves using solar panels as such. So therefore they just go there, continuously work. They sample the soil. Again, Mars robots la ඒගොල්ලොම charge කරගෙන solar panels හරි මොනවා හරි use කරගෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ මේ පස්සල තියෙන samples measure කරලා දෙනවා. Yes, thank you. So Dulintha is saying that it has made by Mark Rober and some other engineers. Yes, thank you for the feedback. And see, likewise, you can actually so some of you may already know who made these robots and how it was made and what does that do, right? So let's just continue with the slide again. And then robots are nowadays using to do some surgery. So this is an experimenting robot, right? So nowadays we are using robots to perform surgeries as well, right? So that much we have developed in this sector. And then this is an example. This is actually a robot, a delivery robot, right? Which they have made. And this also has some capabilities to detect the lines and road signs. And you can see these are robots which deliver goods or which transport. So මේ robots වලට පුළුවන් තව තැනක ඉඳලා තව තැනකට මොන හරි දෙයක් transport කරන්න. Right? So it's like an automatic bag that we can, like an automatic wheeled bag. Again, අපි යනකොට අපි වුණත් follow කරන්න පුළුවන් capabilities තියෙන these make අපිට මේ robots හදන්න පුළුවන්, right? So this can act like an automatic wheeled bag also. Like whenever you are, wherever you go, this robot can follow you. And also this robot can detect lines and road signals as such. Right. So, and I have another small video for you guys. So this is actually a robot which we can use to help people who have suffered from a disaster or something, right? So this is also an advanced robot. Again, they have made. So this robot doesn't have wheels. It has legs, right? So you can see this was made by a company called Boston Dynamics. And they call this robot, they name this robot as Spot. So you can see the robot can actually climb stairs and walk, right? So this is actually like a small dog, right? So it's like a pet, but it is very much capable. You can see like it can have other accessories. You can fix other accessories. So imagine like these robots can help people who are in a fire, who are surrounded by a fire. So people who naturally we can't go. So you can see the robot can carry things as well. Again, අපිට මේ robot පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් disaster එකක් වෙච්ච වෙලාවක ගින්නකට ආහු වෙච්ච මිනිස්සුන්ට, right? So the robot also has the capability to self-rightening. වැටුනොත් ආපහු කෙලින් වෙන්න. So if the robot fell, it can like straighten up by themselves. And it is waterproof. So as such, there are many applications and people have used, we have used these robots to do different things, right? So maybe in the future, you can add few legs for your line following robot, right? So like that, there are lots of different concepts. And all of these things are actually robots. Right. So let's briefly get to know what are the types of robots. අපි බලමු මොනවාද මේ robot types කියන්නේ කියලා. Right? So there are few. You can categorize these robots in different ways. Right? Like I said, this is an introductory session. Right? So I will not go to the deep. Right? I will briefly explain you about these robot types. Right? So type 1 is actually, you can categorize robots as manipulator or fixed base. ඒ කියන්නේ manipulator එකක් or fixed base. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි fixed තැනකට high කරලා තියෙන robot කෙනෙක්. So like I said, I'm taking the same example. You can see a robot arm is actually a fixed base robot. This robot arm can't go. It doesn't have wheels. or it doesn't have wings, right? So this robo arm is fixed. It fixed on a table or in the floor. It is fixed in a factory, right? So that is the type 1 robots, so which are manipulator or fixed base. And then we have another type of fixed base, which is this robot which is capable of doing surgeries, right? So again, this robot is also a fixed base, you can see, right? And then I think that is clear for you. And then if we move on, we have type 2, which is legged and wheeled robots, right? So or legged or wheeled robots. So you can see, so these two types. So one robots has wheels. So we know, like these line following robots, they have wheels. And then the other robots, they have legs, right? So these robots can move. They can travel. They can go from one place to another, right? So these are the robots who are mobile, who are capable of going to different places. Right. And then there's another type, which is autonomous underwater vehicle. And we call that AUV, autonomous underwater vehicle. And there's another type, which is unmanned aerial vehicles. We call that UAV, right? So all these drones are unmanned aerial vehicles, right? So when it's come to these robots, what you should understand is, let's say like an example, I think most of you have had remote control cars, right? Remote control cars you have had, and that those cars also move, but it is controlled by you, right? අපි ඔක්කොම පොඩි කාලේ ගොඩක් කට්ටියට remote control cars තිබිලා තියෙනවා, right? Remote control car එකක් automatically යන්නේ නැහැ. Remote control cars are not autonomous cars. Somebody has to control them, right? So we have our own remote and there's an aerial. So we send signal. So therefore we can control the car, right? So these types are not robots actually, because in order for it to be a robot, it has to work autonomously. It has to do some repetitive task automatically. එහෙනම් මේ car එක පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕන automatically ආගේ path එක හොයාගෙන යන්න. So an example for an automatic path finding car or a remote automatic path finding car is actually a line following robot. That is an example, right? So a line following robot will follow the line, right? And it is automatically following the line. We are not giving any signals for the car, right? So the robot is automatically following the line. So that is a robot. But remote control car is not a robot. I think that part is clear for you. Remote control car එකක් කියන්නේ robot කෙනෙක් නෙමෙයි. මොකද අපි යාව control කරන්න ඕන. අපි යාට signal එකක් දෙන්න ඕන. Right? ඒත් line එකක් follow කරගෙන automatically drive වෙනවා නම් ඒකට අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් robot කෙනෙක් කියලා. Right, so I think that part is clear for you. Right. Okay, I'm not planning to take much time of you guys, right? So therefore, let's continue with the slides, right? And if any one of you have questions, please ask. කාටරි මොනාරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් එහෙම නැත්නම් මොනාරි clear කරගන්න ඕන තැනක් තියෙනවා නම් please ask. Please unmute your mic and ask. Right. So now we'll look into the technology of a robot, right? So what are these technologies, technological part, and that is also I'm going to touch very slightly today. And the whole idea of our course is to provide this technological idea, right? So my robots la kochchara complicated una, right? Kochchara loku una size again, they all have very basic fundamentals technologies, right? So it doesn't matter how big the robot is, it doesn't matter how complex the robot is, the underlying fundamental technology is the same, right? So the whole purpose of this course is to provide this fundamental technology, right? So then, of course, you have a long way to go, right? So when you get older, you will get to know more and more things, right? So if you are doing higher studies, you can study robotics, but the basic is very important, and the basic is the same for every size of a robot, for every type of a robot, right? So the basic is the same for a flying robot, or to a robot which is driving in the road. It's the fundamental technology is the same, and we will teach you step by step how to build a small robot, how to build a robot, right? So you don't have to have any sort of a knowledge to start this course, right? So that is the beauty of it, and we are going to teach you step by step from A to Z about the fundamentals of robotics, so that end of the day you will be able to make a line following robot, or a robo arm maybe, if you like. So that is up to you, but we will teach you how to do that. So let's dive into the technology of a robot, right? So therefore, first we have a robot, right? So we will see, so we will try to like divide these parts of a robot, right? අපි බලමු robot කෙනෙක් කියන්නේ මොන මොන parts වලට එකතුවක්ද කියලා. Now we know, like if you take a vehicle, if you take your car or a motorcycle or even a bicycle, you can see it is a combination of things, right? Your bicycle is actually a combination of two wheels and a frame and chain, right? Your car is a combination of a engine of four wheels and a body and seats, right? So it is a combination of things, and robot is also a combination of many things, right? So now we'll try to dissect what are these parts of a robot, right? So therefore, mainly we can categorize these robots into two parts, right? Okay, so one is intelligence, and then other one is the machine part, right? So you can categorize this in any way, but I would like to categorize this robot in this way, right? So this is much easier. So there are other definitions as well, but this is much more simpler, right? So when you take a robot, අපි ගත්තොත් robot කෙනෙක්ට තියෙන intelligence part එකක් සහ machine part එකක්. So we can clearly see this, right? So intelligent part එකක් කියන්නේ මේ robot ඇතුළේ තියෙන program එක, right? So what is the intelligent part is the program which is inside the robot, right? So if you are programming your robot to follow a line, so then the piece of code that you are writing to follow the line is actually the intelligence part. අපි line following robot කෙනෙක් ගත්තොත් ඒ robot ඒ line එක follow කරන්න කියලා ඔයා කියන part එක තමයි intelligence part එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට මේක සිංහලෙන් කියන්න පුළුවන් බුද්ධිය කියලා, right? So we as humans also have an intelligence. That is how we think. අපි හිතන්නේ, ඒතර අපි maths, අපි ගානක් හදන්නේ, අපි මතක තියාගන්න paper එකකට ලියන්නේ from our intelligence, right? So even robots also have something similar, right? ඒගොල්ලන්ට පුළුවන්කම තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඉස්සරහා තියෙන දේක් බලන්න. So robots have to have a capability to see what is in front of them, if there's a line or not, and then they need to decide, okay, this is a line, but this is not a line, right? So they need to decide. So that is, for that a robot needs intelligence, right? And then the robot has mechanical part. So the mechanical part is the part that we see the most, right? So machine part, right? So sometimes robots have legs, sometimes some robots have wheels, some robots have propellers, some robots may have fins, right? So those are machine parts, and the robots also have motors and the things which are rotating, or then on top of a robot there can be another robot arm, like such. So that is a machine part. So like I said, robots have intelligence part, or else robots have a brain, and robots have a machine part as well. And if you are not clear at any point, please let me know. Please unmute your mic and speak up. Right. Okay. So intelligence part we can divide into two, right? One is actually a new technology which we call as artificial intelligence, right? So we are not going to talk about artificial intelligence because that's a very broad topic, right? And you will eventually get to know about this artificial intelligence, right? But the intelligent or the brain part that we are trying to learn in this course is programming, right? So like I said, intelligence is the brain of the robot, right? So then we need to teach the robot. And how are we teaching the robot? Is by programming, right? So we are typing codes and then we are putting it to the robot so that robot knows, okay, so the robot knows, okay, I have to follow a line, or else I have to, I have to detect if whether there's an edge. So I don't have to fall. So likewise, we tell robot what to do using this programming, right? So we will learn how to program. And the tool that we are using is Arduino, right? So we will learn how to program using Arduino in this course, right? And then the machine part also can be categorized into two main parts. So one is electronics, right? So you have seen in a robot, I will show you like a small picture in the coming videos, coming slides. So robots have electronics, right? So all the sensors, all these wires are there, lights are there, switches are there, right? Circuitries are there. So these are electronics. And we will learn how to make these electronics. So how to just fix electronic parts, components, and then how to make a robot. අපි ඉගෙන ගන්නවා මේ course එක ඇතුළේදී programming එහෙම නැත්නම් robot intelligence, robot brain එකක් දෙන්නේ කොහොමද? අපි කොහොමද robot කියන්නේ? මෙන්න මේ විදිහට දේවල් කරන්න. Because දැන් අපි ගත්තොත් robot කෙනෙක් කියන කෙනා දැන් automatically වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ. එයාම දේවල් හොයාගෙන වැඩ කරන්න ඕන කෙනෙක්, right? එතකොට අපි කියන්න ඕනේ ඉස්සෙල්ලා යාට ඔයා මේ විදිහට කරන්න, ඔයා මෙන්න මේ විදිහට line එකක් follow කරන්න. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ විදිහට light taking අපිට මෙන්න මේම දෙයක් මේ indicate කරන්න කියලා අපිට කියන්න ඕන. ඔන්න ඔය කියන part එක තමයි අපි කියන්නේ program කරනවා කියලා. So I think that part is clear. Right? Now since robots always have to work autonomously or they have to work by themselves, right? So therefore we need to tell them what to do. So that is programming. And then the machine part or the physical robot part also have two major sectors. One is electronics, right? Electronics වලින් තමයි අපි sensors, එතකොට circuitries, program boards, microcontrollers and all මේ ඔක්කොම electronics. So under electronics we have sensors, microcontrollers as such, right? And then last, in the machine, the other part is mechanical part, right? So mechanical part is the wheel of the robot or the chassis of the robot, right? Or a propeller of a robot. So we need to design a good mechanical machine as well, right? So I mean, it doesn't matter how well our program is, it doesn't matter how well our electronics is, if the machine or the mechanical part is not there up to standards, then the robot simply can't move, right? So all these components are very important, right? So let's say we built a nice, good looking robot with the best electronics that we have, but yet we don't type or we don't write a good program, the robot won't even move, right? So all of these three components, like I said, artificial intelligence part, we are not touching from this course, right? But programming, electronics and mechanical, these three is the very basic fundamental for every robot. On top of these three only, we can add other things, right? So if you know how to do the programming, if you know how to make a mechanical part for the robot, and if you know how to select the electronics and fix electronics, and if you know how to program all of these things, then you know how to make a robot. Then you can build any robot from there, right? With time, right? So therefore, we are learning the fundamentals of making a robot in this course. So therefore, even electronics is very important, right? You may be having a good looking, nice, capable, durable uh, mechanical device as a robot, and you also have written a very good code which doesn't have any errors, but yet the electrical connection is not properly done, right? Or some wires are short circuiting, or some wires are loosened up. So then also your robot won't even move, right? So therefore, all these main three parts, programming, electronics, and mechanical part, is necessary. That is the base, that is the foundation of these robots. So I think that part is clear. And if you have any questions regarding this, I'll give you like 1 minute, you can ask. If not, we will move on.
Sir, what are the Arduino types that we are going to use? Like Arduino Uno or...
Yes, I will. Yes, we will get to that. Yes, but for the answer, as an answer, we will be using Arduino Uno. Yes. Any questions? Any other questions? And like I said, I will share the document in the latter part of this slides. We will be providing you a kit as well. So inside that kit, you will be getting an Arduino Uno with the cable as well as sensors, which are necessary, right? So you don't have to separately buy an Arduino. You can buy the kit that we are providing from the institute, and in that kit you will be having an Arduino Uno. අපේ institute එකෙන් අපි ඔයගලන්ට දෙන kit එකේ Arduino Uno එකක් තියෙනවා. So we are going to program using this Arduino Uno. Right. So it seems like there are no other questions. So let's move quickly with the slide set, right? So key components. So first of all, I will just explain you what are the key components of a robot. So this can be the robot that we are making. So even the robot that we are making in the class also have all of these components. These are key components, right? So in the middle, you can see there's this controller, right? So controller is the brain, right? So we are programming this controller. Controller ka tamai brain එක වෙන්නේ අපේ robot ගේ. So අපි code එකක් program කරත් ඒක යන්නේ controller එකට, right? So the controller is actually in the middle. That's why the controller is in the middle, right? And then we have this unit called power conversion unit, right? And we will learn thoroughly about the power conversion unit in the future when we start the class, right? But I will give you a very brief idea. Power conversion unit is how are we going to give different voltages using a battery, right? So I took the battery as an example because I think most of you are interested on making these automatic line following robots or cars as such, right? So all these robots use a battery. They can move when a wheels තියෙන robots ලාට මට හිතනවා ඔයගලන්ට පොඩ්ඩක් ආසාව වැඩි කියලා. So ඒ හැම robotම use කරන්න battery එකක්, right? So we don't necessarily see wired line following robots, right? So may battery එකකින් or not from this battery, how are you providing different voltages? Because the motor, so as an example, let's see the battery that you have in the robot is 12 volts, and we will explain you what are these volts as well, right? So 12 volt, I think you all might have been familiar with these voltages, right? So there are 1.5 volt pentorch batteries and 9 volt, that square size of a type of a battery, And then we have like big batteries like UPS batteries, which are 12 volt. Even like most of the cars, vehicles nowadays have 12 volts batteries, right? So there are batteries in different voltages, right? So let's assume your robot has a 12 volt battery, right? But your motor, right? So your wheels are turned by a motor, no? So this motor is actually 9 volts. So now there's a problem, right? Now, if you provide 9 volts, if you provide 12 volts to a 9 volt motor, then the motor might burn, right? Now, this is a big case. And then there is this another component which takes 15 volts, right? So your power supply or your battery is only 12 volts. So how are you providing a larger voltage, right? And then sometimes your controller or one of your sensors will be using 3.3 volts. So from 12 to 3.3. So you need to do these conversions, right? So from the power source, sometimes you need to get a higher voltage. Sometimes you need to get a lower voltage. So how are we going to do this? So we will teach you, right? So that is the power conversion unit. So power is converted into different voltages. So all the robots have this power conversion unit, right? And then we have sensors and actuators. And again, like I said, we will learn what are sensors, what are actuators thoroughly in the future, right? But sensors, if you take, we all as humans have sensors, right? There are 5 main sensors that we have. We have our eyes, we have our ears, then we have our nose, then we have our tongue, and then we have our skin, right? So from the skin, we can feel temperature differences, whether it's like burning hot or whether it's cold. So that we can feel. And then when we eat tasty food or when we eat bitter food, right, we can feel the difference. That is from our tongue. So tongue is a sensor which can sense things, and your skin is a sensor. And then of course our eyes are sensors, right? So we see and then we listen to music. So therefore, or we hear a horn, right? Let's say like you are walking, and please be very careful when you're walking the roads, right? But when you're walking in the road, you can hear one car is honking, right? So then you know, because of your ears, you know that there is someone coming, right? Or like I said, when you see something, you can identify, okay, this is this, right? So this is a water bottle, this is a laptop, this is a mobile phone. So that is how are we sensing these things? How are we sensing the surrounding? How we get to know the surrounding is from the sensors, right? So that is the same when it's come to the robots as well, right? මේ robots ලා කියන්නේත් වෙනම කට්ටියක් නෙමෙයි. ඒගොල්ලන්ටත් තියෙන්න ඕන sensors, right? ඒගොල්ලෝ එක එක දේවල් වලින් එක එක sensors use කරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ වටේ පිටේ තියෙන දේවල් ඒගොල්ලෝ බලා ගන්නවා, right? So that those are sensors, and we will learn what are sensors and how to control and how to get information from these sensors in the future sessions, right? And then we have actuators, right? So actuators are the ones which are moving, right? So like I said, my arm is an actuator, right? So then my legs are actuators, right? So even our mouth is an actuator, right? So we talk, we want to say something, and our mouth and our lips and our tongue is moving in different ways, right? So everything which is moving, as in to do some task, is an actuator, right? Some sensors also have moving parts, right? But that is not an actuator. So sensor is something giving information to us, and actuators are the ones which are doing actions, right? So I'll take a line following robot as an example again, right? So to follow the line, you need to have sensors. You need to sense the line, right? And then you need to have actuators, which means motors, right? So motors are connected to the wheels. So wheels are mechanical parts, So the motor, which is rotating, is actually an actuator, right? So you see the line, you detect the line, and then your motors are rotating, right? So rotating the motor is actually an actuator. So moving parts are actuators, right? And then, like I said, controller is our brain, right? So that is where you have all the codes and the programs. Control එක කියන්නේ අපේ brain එක. ඒ කියන්නේ එතන තමයි අපි තියෙන්නේ මොනවද කොහෙන්ද information ගන්න ඕනේ, ඒතර මොන part එකද move කරන්න ඕනේ කියන data, right? So that is the controller. And then we have user interface. User interface means we need, if we want to see what is going on in the robot, right? So then we have the user interface. And you don't necessarily have to have a user interface in all the robots, right? But some robots have. Some robots have this small display displaying the voltage of the battery, or a different state of the machine, or like it can be a distance, right? So likewise, user interface is robot is communicating with us, a human, right? So if you take an example, now the rover that we sent to Mars, right? So I think you also already know, like, so we gather information from the robot, right? How are we getting information? So through a user interface, right? If they just send us, like we know in machines, they communicate from 1 and 0s, right? So if they just give us data, sometimes we might not be able to understand that, right? So user interface is what the robot is how the robot is communicating with us. And not all the robots have to communicate with us, right? So if you take like a line following robot, the line following robot not necessarily have to communicate to us. අපිට ඒ robot කතා කරලා දේවල් කතා කරලා නැත්තම් message එකකින් හරි නැත්තම් display එකකින් හරි හැමතිස්සෙම පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ කියලා නීතියක් නැහැ, right? So but not all the robots have user interface, but some robots of course have user interface. And then we have manipulator or linkage base, right? So manipulator or linkage base means, if I take an example, a line following robot, the chassis of the robot or the wheels of the robot, right? The circuit mount of the robot is actually a manipulator or a linkage, right? So අපි මේ components ටික high කරන්නේ එහෙම නැත්නම් move වෙන මේ chassis එක මෙන්න මේකට, එහෙම නැත්නම් if it is a fixed robo arm, then the fixed base, we call that as a linkage base. So even from this you can give information to the controller as well. So you can see from these arrows, right? So let me just quickly go to this mode. So you can see my cursor, right? So you can see from the power conversion unit, it is providing power to the sensors, right? So sensors need power to work. We should give voltage to this sensor. And then even for the actuators, we need to give power. We know that we need to provide power to motors to rotate, right? අපි battery එක connect කරාම තමයි motor කරකෙන්නේ, right? So which means, I mean, when we connect the battery to the motor start rotating, right? Which means we need to give power to the motor and the sensors, right? So from the power conversion unit, you are giving voltage to the sensors and the actuators, and then also for the controller. So your controller also need power to work, right? And then you can see sensors. Sensors are giving information to the controller. So that is why this arrow is headed this way, right? Sensors, let's say a distance measuring sensor is giving measured distance to the controller. This is the distance. So you are 15, you are 30 centimeters away from the wall. So that is information which is coming from the sensor to the controller, right? And then the controller is sending signals to the actuator. Okay, we still have 30 centimeters to the wall. That is what the controller thinks, right? Sensor is saying you have 30 centimeters to the wall. So the robot doesn't want to knock in the wall, right? It doesn't want to knock on the wall. So therefore, anyways, the sensor is giving information. There are 30 centimeters to the wall. So the controller so the sensor is giving that information. Controller take that information and the controller decides, okay, there are 30 more centimeters, right? So therefore we still can move forward. So then please rotate the motor and rotate the wheels to move forward. So this rotation or the motor is actually an actuator, right? So you can see the flow now, right? Sensors give information, controller is deciding, processing, controller is controlling, control is the one which is controlling the sensors, control is the one which is controlling the actuator, right? So the controller is a brain, and then the controller is saying to the actuator to move, right? If it is so close at a point, now the sensor is giving, now this is very close, the sensor is saying, sensor is actually not saying whether it's close or there are more to go, right? Sensor is just giving you distance. First it was 30 and now the sensor is saying there is only 10 centimeters to the wall. So then now the control identifies, okay, now we are too close to the wall. If you go forward, then we will knock on the wall, right? So therefore the controller is deciding, okay, 30 centimeters is okay, but 10 centimeters is not okay. So then immediately the controller is saying the actuator to stop, right? So control is immediately saying the motor to stop rotating, because if we go further, we will knock on the wall. So that is the part. So that is, you can understand the flow of it, right? And then you can see the controller is the one which is sending or showing information to the user interface, right? And then the controller is actually getting information. Controller can get information from the chassis. And the other thing is actuators are directly connected to the manipulator or the chassis of the robot, right? So actuator is the motor, the electric motor is connected to the wheel, right? So motor is the actuator, wheel is the linkage base. So actuator is connected to the wheel, motor is connected to the wheel, right? So then the actuator is connected to the manipulator or the linkage base, and that is where this arrow is there, right? So I will again give you some time if you have any questions, right? If you need any further clarifications on this, I'm here to answer. You can unmute your mic and speak up.
අඩි වෝල්ටේජ් එකක් තියෙන බැටරි එකකින් අඩි වෝල්ටේජ් මෝටර් එකකට පවර් එකක් දුන්නොත් ඒ මෝටර් එකට මොකක් හරි වෙනවද?
මට ආයෙ කියන්න හිමාල් question එක.
ගොඩාක් 12 volts වගේ බැටරි එකකින් 6 volt වගේ මෝටර් එකකට පවර් එකක් දුන්නොත් එතන මොකක් හරි වෝල්ටේජ් එකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවද?
සමහර විට ගොඩක් දුරට මෝටර් එක ඩැමේජ් වෙන්න පුළුවන්.
Thank you, sir.
Right, no worries. So that is a very good question. So like Himal said, Himal කිව්වාගේ 12 volt battery එකකින් අපි 6 volt motor එකකට power දුන්නොත් සමහරට motor එකට damage වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Because the motor is 6 volt. It is recommended to work with 6 volts, right? Motor එකට recommend කරලා තියෙන 6 volts වලින් වැඩ කරන්න. එතකොට 12 volt වගේ ලොකු voltage එකක් දුන්නොත් 6 volt වගේ motor එකක් පිච්චෙන්න පුළුවන්. But we know, like when it's practical, right? අපි practical ඉදිරි හිතුවොත් එහෙම සමහර 12 volt battery එකකින් 10 volt එහෙම නැත්නම් 9 volt වගේ motor එකක් ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් නොවේ වැඩ කරව ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. Right, so Dilip is asking me a question. Sir, are there different types of controller chips in a controller, right? So there are different types of chips in different controllers, yes. But mainly, there is only one type of a chip in one controller. So I think, Dilip, you got the answer, right? So there are different types of controllers which have different types of chips, right? Controller is again a circuit which has a chip inside it, right? So I think you got the answer for your question. Right, brilliant. Okay, so let's move forward then, right? Like I said, I'm not going to take a lot of time from you, right? But let's talk about Arduino, right? So more than me talking, I would like to show what is Arduino, or else like in a virtual world, right? So what is Arduino? First, we'll just quickly discuss what is Arduino. So you can see to this right side of the screen, this is a robo, right? That they are made out of Arduino boards from an Arduino, right? So the sensor that you can see here, I think it is possible for you to see my cursor as well, right? So my ඉස්සරහින් තියෙන මේ sensor එක ඇවිල්ලා ultrasonic sensor. So this is an ultrasonic sensor, and we use this sensor to measure the distance, right? So this is an ultrasonic sensor, and we use this sensor to measure the distance, right? And here you can see there's this component which is blurred out. That is actually the power supply unit, power conversion unit is here, right? And you can see here the Arduino board is here, right? And I think the battery must be underneath, right? So this is not a clear picture. I didn't take this picture to explain you the components. We will do that in the class separately, right? So, but you can see this is something like we can make, right? So this is actually a distance monitoring robot, which it has a capability to measure the distance. And there's another sensor here as well, right? So likewise, this is a robot that we can make. And then Arduino is an open source electronics platform based on easy to use hardware, right? So like I said, you don't have to understand what this text says, right? But we will explain. I will explain you. I will give you a small practical session as well, right? Yes. So Dulnit Abegunwardhan is asking a good question actually. So so he's saying that it's a sonar sensor. Yes, correct. So this ultrasonic sensor is also, we can call it as a sonar sensor as well. So some of you may have heard it as a sonar sensor. And again, how the sonar sensor will work, we will learn in the future class, right? So it is actually sending sound waves, right? So can you tell me what are the who and what are the other devices, or what are the other, an example for an animal who use this type of a sonar system to measure the distance? Exactly, right? So sonar is being used by bats, right? So you know bats, they fly in the dark, right? So they use this type of a sensor. So that is a natural sensor which bats have, right? So they use this sonar sensor, or a sensor which is similar to the ultrasonic sensor, similar to the working of an ultrasonic sensor, to measure the distance. So bats have sonar sensing capability, right? And then other example will be a submarine, right? Submarines which are diving under the water, they also use sonar systems sonar sensors to measure the distance, right? Right. So then again, Dilith Karuna Tilaka is asking me a question. Dilith is asking a question. How do we provide power to the Arduino without using a computer or Arduino cable? Right. So there is a port in the Arduino board which we can provide 5 volts, right? And exactly we will learn how to power up an Arduino using this 5 volts, right? Without connecting it to the computer, right? So we understand, I mean, if the robot is mobile, if the robot has wheels, then do we have to connect a computer, right? So that is not going to work, right? So of course, yes, that is also a good question. So yes, we have to connect the Arduino board to a 5 volt or to a battery, right? And there is, and as an answer for your question, Dilith, there are 2 ways, right? So one way is mainly most of the times Arduino boards are coming with this DC jack, right? So like here in this picture, so this is a DC jack, and this part, if you can see, it is actually the female part of the DC jack. So you can provide 5 volts. So this provide 5 volt to the red color and negative to the black color wire, right? So this is a DC jack. So this is one way. And then of course, you know, there are 2 pins called V in and ground in the Arduino board. So if you provide 5 volt to the V in, and if you connect your negative wire to the ground pin of the Arduino, sometimes you may have to solder using like lead, right? And then that is also another way of powering up an Arduino without a computer. And then of course you can it's like a more like a hack. You can connect your usual computer cable and connect that cable to a power bank, right? So that is also another way of powering up an Arduino without using the computer. So you connect it to the normal USB port of the Arduino, and then the other end you connect it to a power bank, right? So I think you got an answer for your questions. Okay, so like I said, Arduino is an open source electronics platform based on easy to use hardware. So this is the definition, but if you don't understand it, that is fine, right? So because we will do some practicals using Arduino, then you can understand what is Arduino very well, right? So then Arduino is a programming tool as well, right? So you can program from Arduino as well. And then Arduino boards are able to read inputs and outputs. Arduino boards, as in it's a microcontroller, it is capable of reading inputs and sending outputs, right? Okay. So another question, Dulnita is asking, are there any different types of buttons and joysticks to use at Arduino? In Arduino, yes. There are different types of switches, different types of buttons. Buttons as in these are also switches. We call them push buttons, right? So buttons are there, different types of joysticks are there, right? So those are also there. So all these joysticks and buttons or switches, all of these things are inputs, right? So sensor is a device which help the controller to sense the surrounding, and sensor is giving an input, right? And then using buttons and joysticks, they are also giving inputs to the Arduino board. But joysticks, buttons, and switches, these are not sensors, right? And we will learn that in the future, right? So why don't we just try, right? So I will go to this link quickly and explain you the components of an Arduino and I will introduce you to this online tool which is freely available, right? So this is called tinkercad.com, and it is a free online tool designed by Autodesk to simulate these Arduino programs and Arduino projects, right? So I have actually preloaded the Tinkercad. So if not, you can, right, sorry. Let me share the screen again. Right, so I think you can see the screen pretty well now, right? Okay, so can you drop me a message if you can clearly see the screen? Can you all see my screen clearly? Okay, brilliant. Right, so then this is actually called Tinkercad, right? So this is the interface, and let me just quickly type. So if you type Tinkercad here, right? And then type Tinkercad, and then you get this first link, right? Tinkercad.com. And if any of you trying at the same time, you can try, and I will do it very slowly, right? So type Tinkercad in Google, and then select the first link, right? If you are not trying it now, it's fine. You can try this later, right? And then by clicking this link, you are getting an interface like, wait, because since I have signed in, you won't be seeing that up front. Right, so if you haven't signed in, then at the moment that you pressed this link, you will be getting a page like this, right? So in here, there's an option called join now, and there's an option called sign in. So because you are not joining into a specific class, you can select sign in, and then students, you can join your class, right? So since you don't have a class for this course yet, therefore you can just sign in with Google, right? So that is what I'm selecting, signing in with Google. So you have to have a Google account, right? And then you will be getting an interface like this, and under here you have different sections: 3D designs, circuits, code blocks, and lessons. And I'm going to select this circuits, and I'm going to select this create new circuit. All these things I'm getting because I have done different things previously, right? So therefore, you can select directly create new circuit. It will take some time depending on the internet speed. I think my internet speed has got low a little bit. Right, okay. So I got this interface, right? So I will quickly explain you this interface, right? So we will be using this tool as well in the class, right? So therefore, and we will create, and we will teach you, I will teach you how to go to this Tinkercad separately, thoroughly in the class, right? But I will explain you very briefly, right? So in this here, you have the name, You have few options. I think you all are very fluent with these things now, right? So I will explain, like I said, I will explain, I will dive deep in the class, right? So you have components. Under these components, you have this Arduino Uno R3, right? So this is the Arduino board, and you can see once I grab and drop it here, you can place the Arduino here, right? So in this Arduino board, right? So in this Arduino board, there are key components, right? So here is the port. This is the port that we use to program the Arduino. And here you can see, this is the DC jack that I talked about, right? So you can supply 5 volts here as well. And you can see, this is the chip that you were talking about, like one student, you were talking about a chip. So this is a chip inside this Arduino microcontroller, right? Like I said, you don't have to know anything about this, right? But we will teach you everything which is necessary, right? And there are different pins as such, right? And you can see there are different types of sensors also here, right? So components, if I select all components, you can see there are different types of electronic components, and then switches, and then sensors, right? So you can drag and drop an ultrasonic sensor, right? So like that. Okay. So there are LEDs as such. So this is an ultrasonic sensor. So this is a sensor that we can use. And there is a PIR sensor as well. And there's a force sensor inbuilt, ambient light sensor, photoresistors, again, a light sensor, right? IR sensors. So usually we use IR sensors, IR sensor array, so or a series of sensors to measure or to detect a line in a line following robot, right? So as such, and there are keypads. All of these components are here available in online, as well as once we start doing practicals, we have, and we will provide you the kit to do the practicals, right? So in this kit also, you'll be getting an Arduino Uno board and basic sensors, right? And you don't have to be limited from the kit. You can buy any sensors after that, right? But we will provide you all the necessary key sensors for this course, right? Therefore, I think this much is enough for today, right? For the circuitry displaying, for the Arduino explanation. So like I said, you don't have to go through the definitions of the Arduino, right? Because it's a very practical device, Arduino board. And I think most of you have heard already Arduino, what is an Arduino board and the basics of it. But if you haven't, then that is also completely fine, because we are teaching from ground up, right? So I think maybe a few of you have studied microbit, right? So that is the other course. So microbit is also there, right? Okay. So let's jump back to the slides, right? So these are a few examples. As you can see, these are a few examples of these Arduino based robots, right? So this has tracks. We didn't mention anything about tracks, but these are tracks, like in an army tank, right? Like in a tank. And this is again a robo, right? So this one has the ultrasonic sensor. This one doesn't have an ultrasonic sensor, but different applications. So this is an IR sensor. These are different applications that you can do using Arduino, right? And then I will quickly dive into IoT, right? Internet of Things. What is this Internet of Things? The concept is actually very small, right? Very basic. Connecting all together is what IoT means, right? So if you have, let's say like a smart house. So your all lightings and then the power and then switches all connected together, right? And we will explain what is Internet of Things thoroughly in the future sessions and why it is important to learn Internet of Things, right? So this robotics and Internet of Things are going together now, right? So back in the days, it was just robotics, but now Internet of Things has come to play a major role, right? So Internet of Things is basically connecting devices together. Let's say connecting two robots together to work as a team. That is an application of IoT in robotics, right? So this is an example. So previously I showed you one robo arm, but instead of one, you have 6 robo arms working here, right? So this is the robo arms are connected to each other, right? And then I'll give you like a very practical example. There's a website called Flight Radar 24, right? So if we just go for it, the website name is flightradar24.com. Some of you may already know. You can see all the aircrafts, passenger aircrafts, which are in the sky at the moment, right? So this is Sri Lanka. So you can see there's this plane, UAE 652 aircraft is coming towards Colombo, and these 3 aircrafts are going from Colombo. And the fact that we can see these aircrafts like this is because of Internet of Things, right? So all of these aircrafts, they send information about their location and their speed and their direction. And then from a different place, we can see this information, right? So I have not put any device into this plane, but the devices in this plane, the sensors in this plane is sending us information, the altitude, the speed, the direction with the name, right? So, and we have connected all these aircrafts in the world into one system. So like you can see, so this is the result of Internet of Things, right? All of these aircrafts are connected with each other, right? So all of these aircrafts also can see other aircrafts as well in a map like this, right? So that is because of IoT, right? So that is again an example for IoT, right? So let's jump back to the slide set, and then yes. So if you have any questions, I am here to answer for you. So that will be the conclusion of today's introductory session, right? So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. You can unmute your mic and you can ask your questions. So
Arduino board එක programming කරන්න කොහොමද? ඒකට software එකක් කීයද?
yes, අපි ඒ ගැන course එකේදී thoroughly discuss කරනවා. Arduino board එක, ඒ කියන්නේ අපි ඉස්සෙල්ලාම කරන්නේ මොකද්ද මේ robotics කියන එක සහ introduction එකක් දෙනවා Arduino board එකක් සහ ඒක program කරන්න කොහොමද කියලා. හරිද? එතකොට Arduino board එකක් program කරන්න අපිට software එකක් තියෙනවා Arduino කියලා. හරිද? Arduino කියලා software එකක් through තමයි අපි Arduino board එක program කරන්නේ. ඒ software එක අපිට freely available internet එකේ ගන්න පුළුවන්, download කරගන්න පුළුවන්, and හැම Arduino board එකකටම එකම software එක තමයි අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. ඒක කොහොමද Arduino program එක download කරන්නේ, ඒ software එක කොහොමද install කරගන්නේ, ඊට පස්සේ ඒකට කොහොමද අපේ board එක match කරගන්නේ කියන ඔක්කොම දේවල් ටික අපි මේ course එකේ ටික ටික ඔයාලට කියලා දෙනවා. Right? So as you can see, මේ පේන විදිහට මේක තමයි course details. Right. So as you can see, these are the basic information. And Dilith, you are asking a question. I already have an Uno circuit, breadboard, jump wires, and etc. Yes, in this case, the thing is this, Dilith. So in our kit, it is not just an Arduino circuit. We have all the other sensors as well, right? So we encourage you to get the kit, and if you don't find any other, if you want any other alternative options, you can please contact CITEC, right? If you have all the sensors that is necessary for the course, then it's fine, right? But like I said, Arduino, the kit that we are providing here, right? So the Arduino kit that we are providing here has all the sensors as well. It is not just the Arduino board, right? So we need other sensors to work with, no? So that is why we are giving this Arduino kit as well. Dilip, I will send you my number, right? So that, right, okay. So I will send you my number so that you can send me a message saying what are the sensors that you have, right? Okay. So if any of you have questions, you can please ask.
Oh, sir, when do we want to purchase the Arduino?
You don't have to purchase the Arduino separately. Once you pay this amount, we will be sending you the kit.
Okay.
Right? You don't have to buy the Arduino or the other sensor separate, right? So we have prepared a kit so that you can get that. For any clarifications, you can call this number as well. The number which is here, 077 934 4545. Right. For any clarifications, you can contact this number as well. Right. So this is our CITEC Institute number so that you can call and ask for any help. right? So all the questions that you have, Dilith, about the next level course, you need to contact this number, right? So this is the CITEC number. So they will inform you what is the next level course, right? And the Hamza, you also have to contact CITEC for the further information, actually, about the components which are in the kit. So the number is here given, and yes. All right. So it seems like there are no more questions. Therefore, let's conclude the session for today. Okay, right. So let's conclude the session for today. Thank you very much. And I hope you all in the class. I hope to see you all in the class. My number is not this number. This is actually the institute's number, right? I will send you my number, Himal. You too. Have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Have a nice day, sir.
You too. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.